سبحانه وتعالى مع لطف وعافية برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين. اللهم نسألك العلم لدني والمشرب السوفي الهني بغني. اللهم نسألك العلم لدني والمشرب السوفي الهني بغني. اللهم نسألك العلم لدني والمشرب السوفي الهني بغني. صلى الله على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم والحمد لله رب العالمين آمين. الحمد لله. اللهم صل وسلم على سيدنا محمد الأمي وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم. اللهم صل على سيدنا محمد الأمي وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم. اللهم صل على سيدنا محمد النبي الأمي وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم. اللهم صل على سيدنا محمد النبي الأمي وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم. اللهم صل على سيدنا محمد النبي الأمي وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم. اللهم صل على سيدنا محمد النبي الأمي وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم. اللهم صل على سيدنا محمد النبي الأمي وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم. اللهم صل على سيدنا محمد النبي الأمي وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم. اللهم صل على سيدنا محمد النبي الأمي وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم. اللهم صل على سيدنا محمد النبي الأمي وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم. اللهم صل على سيدنا محمد النبي الأمي وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم في كل لحظة أبدا عند خلق رضا نسبة عاشي ومداد الكلمات. Alhamdulillah, from the book Muhammad the Perfect Teacher, an insight into his teaching methods by the great Sheikh of Halab, Sheikh Abdul Fattah Abu Ghuddah Al-Halabi Al-Shami, ونفعنا الله به وبعلم في الدار إلا قال. Right, from may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala benefit us by him and by his knowledge, right, in both abodes to where he has said. Right, so we have reached the 10th method, right, of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam in teaching, and one of my most favorite methods, right, because subhanallah, this kind of methods also you can find in as a dalil, right, in the hadith, which is the method of drawing on the ground and sand, and basically using images, right, and when we understand that he was doing this, right, with adults, and he was showing the Sahaba, right, he was teaching the Sahaba, by using images on the sand. And from there we take the dalil, right, that it is of course very much part of education, right, to actually draw, show images, and more so with children, right, because for children, especially for age groups that before they're able to read, right, and write, right, so below the age of 7, and for most of them, right, imagery is very important, right, for them to be able to follow the story, right, and they remember the story clearly in their minds, right, when they see you draw, and also when you draw, right, which is also I would say that it's my own opinion, could be right or wrong, right, but I would say it's a disadvantage when the images are already there, right, they don't actually see you draw it, right, and when it's already there and it's moving, by itself, right, it also prevents, there's a, like, you're giving it to them lah, when images are already there. Allahu alam, right, because you like seeing it, right. Also, as they grow older, right, sometimes stories, right, is best without images, right, as they grow older, right, so as to allow the imagination, right, to try and picture, right. Otherwise you'll be doing them a disservice, right, by always giving them videos and images and how things are. I rather you should allow them to actually imagine it. Right, so for now, when I teach them seerah, I do give images, right, for them to be able to follow the seerah, and also just so they won't be restless. Otherwise, if you keep talking to them just like that, verbally, they get restless. Right, so if they see you draw, and they're watching you draw, right, they you hold their attention a bit longer. But as they grow older and they read the books themselves, right, it's best without images, right, so for them to imagine, right, what Rasulullah went through, right, in the entire of his his night journey, and especially events that you can't actually draw anything, right, but all you can do is just hear what was narrated to us from Rasulullah alaihi wasallam. Right, so as we go into this method, right, whenever we use this method, to always put in the intention, right, that I'm using this method of drawing, of showing images, right, following the sunnah of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And sometimes you don't even have to draw, because they understand. Like for example, Rasulullah, there was one point whereby he drew 4 lines in the ground, right, the famous hadith about the perfected woman, right, the perfect woman, right, he drew 4 lines in the ground. There was no need for him to draw, in actual fact, right, because you could just say there are 4 women who are perfect, right, and the Sahaba who have understood that, right. Rather, the way he did it was that he drew the 4 lines first, right? And then he said to the Sahaba, do you know what these are? So in the sense that you got the attention first, so do you know what these are? Right? And then he went to the hadith of the 4 perfected women, right? And the lines in no way show women. In a way, like he didn't draw women, right? He just drew 4 lines. Right? So in the sense that is to embed in the minds of the Sahaba, right, this important fact. There are 4 of them, right, that actually reached perfection in faith. And these are their names, right? Amongst men, many of them reached perfect faith. Right, so at times Rasulullah SAW used to explain a concept by drawing on the ground or the sand. Right, and this book, the front page of the book, right, is actually basically the hadith that we're going to read through. But he drew the lines, right, and a box. However, if you look in Riyadh Salihin, there are actually several images of how this was drawn. I will go in and take my Riyadh Salihin out here, so you can actually see Riyadh Salihin and know what are the different images, right, that was actually drawn. Different Sahaba narrate different things as to what was actually drawn, right? Because when I read the hadith, I didn't really think this was how it was drawn. Right, it seemed as if the lines were inside the box, But I'll take my resolution, and you'll see a few different opinions of what was actually drawn, and not exactly this. And some said it was actually inside, and some said it was outside. Allahu Alam, right? I will take my book later on. So the hadith number 60, روى إمام الأحمد في مسنده عن جابر وابن مسعود رضي الله عنهما وأبو عبد الله المروزي في كتاب سنة عن جابر وابن عباس رضي الله تعالى عنهما قال جابر كنا جلوسا عند النبي صلى الله عليه وآله وصحبه وسلم فخط بيده في الأرض خطا هكذا أمامه وقال هذا سبيل الله عز وجل وخط خطين عن يمينه وخطين عن شماله وقال هذه سبل الشيطان ثم وضع يده في الخط الأوسط ثم تلا هذه الآية وأن هذا صراطي مستقيما فاتبعوه ولا تتبعوا السبل فتفرق بكم عن سبيله ذلكم وصاكم به لعلكم تتقون. Alright, so here Rasulullah is showing the idea of the different paths that a person takes in his life. Right, so the hadith goes, Imam Ahmad rahimahullah ta'ala narrates in his musnad on the authority of Jabir radiallahu anhu and Ibn Mas'ud radiallahu anhu and Abu Abdullah radiallahu anhu and Ibn Abbas radiallahu anhu. Jabir radiallahu anhu said, he was sitting with Rasulullah when he drew a line on the ground in front of him with his hand like this, and said, this is the path of Allah. So when Jabir said like this, that means when he was narrating the hadith, right, he was doing it like this. I was drawing in front of himself like this. So as they narrate, they also do exactly as how Rasulullah did it. For the secrets, of how Rasulullah, he did the entire hadith. This is the path of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Right? And then he drew two lines to the right and 2 lines to the left. Right? And he said, these are the paths of shaitan. Right? Then he placed his hand to create on the second line and repeated the verse, this is my straight path, follow it then, and do not follow other paths to deviate you from the path of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This he has ordained for you so that you may fear Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Right, so here you see that that the path is straight, right, and it's one. Right, and the path of shaitan are many. Right, that's what you see in the hadith. It's not just like he drew a fork in the road. He actually made it clear to us. It's one. Right, and then there are many different paths whereby shaitan brings you away from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's path. Right, and shaitan and also in the hadith we see that shaitan is lying in wait on the path of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Right? For those people who are already on the path of shaitan, shaitan is not concerned about them, because they are okay by themselves. Right? On the path of shaitan, and on the path of shaitan will lead towards the hellfire. However, the path of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that is where shaitan is concerned. right? And he lies in ambush, right, to pull and drag people away from the path of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Right, so this kind of imagery that is like you already placed in their minds very, very strongly. Right, what are you doing? Right, and if you want to extend the hadith, right, you can draw for them on this path. You draw the Quran, you draw the prayer, right? You draw you draw the different things that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala likes, right, that will keep you on this path. And then on the other paths, right, of shaitan, right, you will draw like other stuff lah, like you draw path of shaitan, uncovering the aurat, you draw path of shaitan in the way, right, going towards sinful things, you draw path of shaitan, you draw anger on one path of shaitan, right, so you can actually like if you really want to take the example and extend it lah, right, you can put on different paths, right, how shaitan pulls people away from the path of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and how you make yourselves firm on the path of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Alright, it's hadith number 61. And the next hadith, right, is the one on qada and qadar, and also on the ajal. Right, so here he goes, right, the hadith 61.
So the drawing on the book is the exact description lah.
This is not that book. It is not this hadith. The next hadith. This hadith it is straight line, right? Like that, like that, like that, like that.
Like this.
Something like that. It's like an arrow. Yeah, so that one is so there's only one correct path. This book is the ajal. It's the lifespan of a human being, and this is his hopes. His hopes goes past. And in the next hadith talks about this drawing. Right, so that hadith just now is the Allah's path is one. There's no other path. But the deviated, all the power of shaitan are many. And then so I was saying just now that you can actually to extend the example, you can draw on Allah's path. Right, what is it that Allah likes? You can extend the example like draw prayer, draw fasting, draw being kind, draw all kinds of images that will keep you straight on this path, and you can draw Jannah at the end. And when you draw the other paths, you can draw like path of anger, you can draw path of the one to pray, you can draw the path of like the one to the Quran, that kind of thing. Like you can just do your own stuff lah, and like fire is everywhere at the side. Fire is all at the side. Right, so if you don't keep to this path, right, you're going to, if you don't do these things in this path, right, then the shaitan can very easily take you and drag you, right, into all the other paths, right, very, very easily to snare.